Hello, everyone. We're a day early, but it's time for our weekly AMA. We're going to give it just a minute for a few more people to hop up on the stage and give a minute for everybody to get caught up and start filling in the audience, and then we will be getting started.
Hey, Bolin, can you hear me okay? I had to click a bunch of cupcakes to get added to this again, and it asked me to add all my audio input. I'm worried I'm going to be echoey again.
Nope, you sound good.
Okay, cool, thanks.
The cupcakes worked.
It also helps that you're not in the bathtub.
Yeah.
That was the rumor going around last time with the echo.
Just having
If I
a
was in a
relax.
bathtub, I'd be pumping like hardcore jets, so that would probably be super loud.
Right. Well, let's get started. So it is time for this week's AMA. Magnus is going to be joining us partway through. He is on a call right now with a potential partner. So he is taking care of that, and then he'll be joining in a little bit later. But for right now, let's get kicked off with Frisky Fox.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's been less than a week since our last AMA. It feels good to be back. Since our last time, there's been a lot that's happened. Actually, we released a spreadsheet that basically shows the progress that we are currently making on all of the fronts for the Serendale 2.0 launch, and it's a really cool new way for us to be transparent and to just show sort of in actual real time how all of those fronts are doing. And it's a really good way for the community to sort of stay on top of where we're at for that. They or our meetings that we have, we actually open up that document and we update it as we go, and we kind of step through each item and sit there and talk about it. So it is a actual live and living document that we use for that. So make sure to check that. It's up to date. I've had some people ask, what does this mean for the launch date? When can we expect a launch date? When? A lot of wins always. And so I sort of wanted to explain how we are planning to do that. So we have that spreadsheet, and if you look in there, it has a column for the, I think it's G. It has whether it has already passed internal testing or not. And a lot of them are in progress. Some of them have already passed. And there's a lot of back and forth there, because as they test, and we have really good testers, there's our alpha testers, which includes some of our mods and knights. There's also a lot of our internal people are hard at work, just basically doing a lot of full-time testing. As they hit those, and if there's any issues found, then it has to go back to dev and have them address it or fix it. So it's kind of a very iterative process there. But you should see over time that slowly starts to turn more and more green. And we are currently planning to launch on Clayton, which is an entirely new chain and ecosystem that has 1 second block finality. It has subtleties with how they handle RPCs and a bunch of other things that are just sort of new to us. So we are trying to be very, very careful and cautious to make sure that we test everything really, really well, because we want the success of that launch to be enjoyed by all. So we are planning currently to wait until we get all of those turned green for testing to make sure it's 100% tested, 100% solid before we announce that date for launch. The flip side there is that when we get to that point, we are very, very confident that it will actually happen at that date. So it's just a much higher level of confidence, and just like we know this works really well. And so the amount of time that is basically like needed after those turn green to when we can launch is not very long at all. So our plan right now is to wait till those turn, and then you'll see us probably like within a day or two after that make a announcement of that date, and that should be probably like 6 or 7 days after all of that passes. So basically, you could expect that once those turn green, we're at the point where we'll make that announcement and be very close to actually launching. So hopefully that helps to explain some things. We have some dates internally, but I won't be mentioning those now because, again, we're just trying to make sure it's 100% solid. But I'm really excited. It's coming up really soon and close. And so, yep, that hopefully helps to understand, or helps all of you guys to understand, our internal process and approach to this. You can't ever be too careful on the blockchain. You need to make sure things are very solid, because it is handling everybody's like real world assets and things like that. So now that I've addressed that horse and it's dead, let's see. Other updates from me. We've had some internal committee meetings to kind of talk about some things that we'll probably be touching on a little bit later. Hubert and others might probably weigh in on those, so I'll hold off about those. But I have also been hard at work on like the dual like rank rewards and things, so that it'll be automated, so that players can just basically head in and claim those rank rewards anytime, basically. And it'll be a lot more of a self-serve automatic process, a lot less stress and effort involved from our team after it's already set up. And we'll be using that for the future seasons as well, so that as soon as you hit that rank, you can actually claim that reward right away inside of that rank, inside of that dual season, I mean. So I'm really stoked about that. I also was hard at work on like the raffle system, optimizing that. You should see now that if you submit raffle tickets, there's no like limit now, whereas in the past I think you could only do like 1,000 and something at a time. So that's nice. It's a lot more efficient with how it stores those. And so that's going. Also, I updated and fixed our block hash oracle, which is used for the randomness to basically secure it, so that now it's even more secure than it was before. It's basically just very, very like robust to make sure that that's not able to be messed with. So that's very important as well. For Clayton, Pinecone actually has been hard at work creating a infrastructure for us to run our own basically like cron jobs or nodes that will be hitting that regularly to make sure that it stays up to date and it's always being monitored, so that the like randomness there will also be very secure. So kudos to him on that. I don't think he's up here on stage with us right now, but he's amazing. Speaking of others who aren't up on stage, Magnus will be, he's actually in like a meeting right now with one of our partners. He'll be probably hopping in at halfway through. But he's also been very, very hard at work with optimizing some of our quest things. Him and also Hubert. Hubert actually like messaged me Friday and was like, "Hey, I would sort of be interested in trying to get this Solidity stuff set up and running on my local computer." So I like hopped on a call and sort of walked him through it. And he, over the weekend, he spent like 12-hour days just basically hammering away at the code and basically learning Solidity. I mean, he's amazing, and so he was able to actually figure out a lot of optimizations and things there. And I think we're in a very, very good spot right now where actually those quests are able to be submitted and completed from the amazing efforts of Hubert and Magnus there. So huge kudos to them on that front. That was really the main unknown that we had for Serendale on Clayton, and that now is looking very solid and good. So obviously we still have to have a lot of like robust QA and things around that to make sure it works how we want, but in an excellent place there. So round of applause for them there. We've got some other things from tokenomics that I'll let Hubert talk about later. Splitting updates. I was able to get 4 out of the 5 splitting buckets up and running on our test nets. So we've got that squared away. there's the fifth one, which is the locked crystal, that entails a little bit more. So we'll be doing a pre-compile on our chain that will support us basically raising the cap for crystal from 125 million to 250 million to enable us to do that locked crystal airdrop. And that will take some time. And I'll probably speak about that a little bit later with Magnus as well after he's back. But what that entails basically is all of the validators have to be updated to be able to support that. And it's a thing that will involve a lot of testing. It's the first time that we've ever had to write our own precompile. And I spent some time actually very late last night doing that. And I was able to get one up and running, and everything was okay on my local. So that was a good first step, but there's a lot more that has to happen before that will be ready. So the locked crystal part of the splitting will probably be coming, like sometime after Serendale 2.0 launch. So just have that in mind. I think that is most of my updates. So Volon, back over to you.
For the record, when somebody tells you that over the weekend they just learned Solidity, you stop talking about what you did over the weekend, because nobody asked me what I did over the weekend. It was not learn Solidity. Fox, before we move on, did you want to talk Quest Fund now, or do you want to do that later?
Sorry, the Quest Fund, is that what you said? I was trying to read the chat over there for AMA Voiceless. Yeah, so that is one of the things I mentioned that we talked about in our committee. Might as well do it now since you've mentioned it. But every week we have a committee where we sort of just like sit and talk about all of the important things that we need to make decisions on. And one of those that came up this week was the Quest Fund. We had 2.6 million joules on Serendale. That was on Harmony in the Quest Fund. And the plan for that was to basically allocate those towards the Crystal Veil and the Serendale 2.0 Quest Funds, which would also have their own other Quest Funds that are made up of Crystal and Jade. So it's kind of like a supplementary Quest Fund that's made of Jewel. And how that works right now is it's basically used for extra rewards for the gardening quest. So we had a vote on how to allocate that, because we had only allocated the first 1 million of that. So we had other amounts that we should be allocating to those two funds. And the plan is, since we have already been essentially just handling Crystal Veil Quest Fund for the past month and a half or so, it's been obviously receiving a lot more of the drain and the lion's share of that, because 100% of our quests and heroes have been basically hitting that one fund. So the plan is to allocate of the 1.6 million joules that are still unallocated, we'll be sending 600,000 of those to the Crystal Veil one here in a bit. And the other 1 million will be going to the Serendale one after we launch. So that will be how that is split up. There's also about 100,000 joules that have accumulated from the jewel fees for gas that are supposed to be put into the quest fund that have to be manually moved over. So our plan is to do that later today as well. So you'll see those start to have more in there if you're wondering. That's kind of how that will play out. Hubert, is there anything I missed there, or Dreamer, anything you guys would like to add?
Yeah, I think you covered everything that I would say on that. So, Dreamer?
Same, nothing to add.
Sweet. Full on, back to you.
Awesome. I appreciate it. So let's go to Dreamer for some BizDev updates.
Cool. Hi, everybody. This week is one that's been heavily focused on the dev side. A lot of my and other roles have been around how do we support those leading up to the launch the best way we can. We've always been focused on kind of refining our internal practices, and from a corporate governance perspective, we've been trying to improve the overall structure, at least the visualization of the structure, to hopefully share with folks updated org chart, and also maybe a little transparency of all the committees and working groups that we have. Every week that goes by, we get a ton of stuff done as shown by the output of the project. But if folks were to see exactly like how we're structured and have a little more transparency, I would hope that there would be even added trust and support and excitement for the group. So we've been working on things like that. I know not the most fun updates, but I think super important. And we do want to make sure that we support everybody on the team as good as we can, in addition to those that we partner, collaborate with, and those in the community that are building. Next week is Miami. We'll be flying out there. We have a number of people, it seems like, that got some tickets that will be joining us. Very excited to see people in the community, excited to represent DeFi kingdoms in the best way that we can. Have a number of in-person meetings set up already. Maybe we'll have some interviews and some others, but we'll be there. We'll have some merch. We'll be excited to talk with people, excited to have a booth, excited to take part, hopefully in a couple panels as well. I think some of those are TBD. For the first time, we do have the dude of Beatles coming out as well. So I'm excited to have him there and for people to get some FaceTime with him. Might be hearing from him on a panel as well. So he's an incredibly talented developer, but he's also a really great guy. So anybody that's going to be there, I'm excited for you to meet somebody new if you've already met Bolon, myself, and others. Let's see. On the the market side, I think I'll refrain from specific comments, but I'll just say that I personally been very invested in having some time allocated each day to understand some of the inputs that are going into the concerns of the broad market and the contagion of recent events. I just want to encourage everybody else to be doing the same. I would suggest looking for multiple sources, because in this market, nobody really knows what will happen. People might claim, or there might be concerns of X, Y, or Z. But I think the best thing we can do is be as educated as we can and not take any one thing as like a source of all truth. So just wanted to throw that plug out there. I know that everybody in our community is super active in ongoing education and awareness. I just want to make sure that in the holidays and everything, we allocate a little bit of time to just keep in touch with that so we can make the best decisions for all of us. I will say that the current events are very related to kind of my previous life, and I might be trying to hop into chat a little bit more to answer questions as we tried in the past, especially when volatility picks up. We try to make sure we don't share a specific view on any of this, but like everything, knowledge is power, and we do our best internally to discuss it not only casually, like among our own personal interests, but in our team meetings, we give updates. We have like a channel dedicated to risk. People on the team identify things that come up, and we are discussing. So doing our very best to keep up to date, to look around corners, to prepare for certain scenarios, and to react to the scenarios that maybe nobody could have been prepared for. For the castle, there's been discussions this week on, we have the Jester that supports those that are building games that support DFK tokens and NFTs in some way. We're excited for that to continue to grow. We have the Archivist that is meant to be a way for DFK native analytics and other non-game platforms and tools to be represented. We do have the Artist coming to help those that are creating content and finding ways to elevate those there, whether it's writing, whether it's I think music, art, video, anything on the production side. But there was kind of a hole for our closest partners and those that we collaborate with. So oftentimes when you're on like a traditional website, you'll see here are all of our investors, here are all of our core partners, and kind of listed out. And I know that on our website, we do have a fair amount listed, but wanted to gamify it as well. So there will be an update coming of a new NPC. Maybe I'll hold on what the NPC is and the name of it, but I did want to share that we're looking to include at this point, pretty long list of partners, close collaborators, those that have been existing protocols that then integrated us into their protocol or supported us in their analytics in some way. So obviously we'd have Avalanche and Clayton featured there, Synapse. You'd expect we support the wallets we support, so Coinbase Wallet, MetaMask, and I'm not going to go down the whole line, but excited just for that, for anybody that comes into DFK maybe after a long time or is new, to be able to see some added credibility of all those that are working with us, support us, and contributing to the building of the kingdoms, I think is a good win for the castle in and of itself. So it'll be a bit different. We're not going to require them to apply. I think we'll be adding folks internally. So we might see them go up a bit quicker. If we see like a bunch of things go up quicker, it's not that we are delaying submissions of those in the listing program. It's that there is no submission there. It's an active partnership and collaboration, and we want to reflect it for maximum like credibility and accuracy on who really should be in the castle. So I'll pause there in my comments and send it back over to you, Boland.
Beautiful. Much appreciated on those updates. I was going to actually ask anyway, did you want to talk on Jade tokenomics now, or you want to save that for a little bit later?
Yeah. Do you want to ask the question and I'll respond now? Because I forgot the whole question, but I think I recall it. We can do that now though. Full transparency. I did have a premature repairman show up, and he's walking about repairing things, and I'm gonna have to go talk to him here in a second. So I'll speak on this, and I might be popping out it in.
No problem. Basically, just how it compares to the Crystal Veil tokenomics, the emission schedule, and the unlock schedule.
Right. So we have not changed anything. So if we were to look at the way that we launched Crystal Veil, I think that we're going to be using that as like a standard in this scenario. So we felt it would be disruptive to introduce changes that are unnecessary that then result in like an asymmetric unfolding of emissions. So I would say for those that are familiar, the rate at which the epochs, the unlocking schedule remains largely unchanged. What changes could we have considered? We could have considered the different emission rates, could have considered different unlock rate as well, or like period of unlock. These things would have then been maybe confusing to those coming back and harder to track. If we were to ever consider like a different unlock schedule, I personally feel like, man, it would feel great to have a smoother unlock over like, I don't know, 5 years or something. But that is such a deviation from what we've done. It would be unwise, and I think all of our views, to introduce or propose something so disruptive or so different from that of the unlocking schedule of Crystal. So quick answer there is no major change, but I'll pause there from like what we would call as like the closest reference point or standard. But Fox, anything to add?
No, that's really well said. I had someone in our chat ask that same question just now. It'll be the same model. It'll just have like some of the dates be shifted because it'll launch soon, and Crystal Veil has already been out for a while, so it's the exact same model, but all of the dates are kind of shifted.
Perfect. Thank you both, gentlemen. And that will be reflected in our docs soon, as in documents, not in-game docs. But that will be updated in the white paper soon as well, so that people can see that schedule. But it is going to, essentially mirror our last launch. But we'll have that finalized or formalized shortly. So let's see here. Welcome, Magnus. Real quick, before we move on with some other updates, I was asked to tag one thing back onto the Quest Fund question and ask Hubert if he would be kind enough to expound slightly on how the Quest Fund impacts gardening.
Okay. Yeah. So I think with this question, is this kind of regarding the jewel side of that? Is what
Yeah.
we were. Okay.
Yeah, like jewel and like minimum rewards and that fun
Right.
stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, the Quest Fund was designed in a way where it's never intended to be allowed to go to zero, and for that reason, it has to have some guards on it to protect from anything where there's like a guaranteed reward. And that's where, like with the Jewel Quest Fund, you did see recently it passed that threshold where the minimum reward is no longer being awarded. And that's just simply because if we were to continue to do the minimum reward with the size that it is, it would just very quickly start to drain it down to zero. So with the Jewel Fund in particular, we do not have any or many inputs to it right now. We have the gas going in, which I think Fox mentioned a little bit about earlier. And there's actually a bump coming from that, and then also what we have left over from the Quest Fund in Harmony. That also is going to be going in there. But from that point forward, the inputs are going to continue to be from gas, and then from any feature that we add in the game that costs Jewel instead of power tokens. So it is kind of it's a function that has feedback to it. It'll grow if there's more inputs than outputs, or it'll shrink if it's the opposite. If there are a combination of inputs and outputs, then it will reach an equilibrium point with how the gardening quest is set up and how future quests will be set up as well. So it's just kind of that's how it works. So sometimes we could see that balance go very low, especially on the Jewel side. There's not going to be as many inputs to it as there are on the power token side. But I think, actually, let me double check real fast here. Last time I looked, we were really close to 1 million crystal in the quest fund, and it's not quite there yet, but it's almost there. So that side has been growing regularly, and so that does mean, like, on the crystal side, your rewards are going to be increasing regularly if nothing else changes in the ecosystem with other people adding liquidity or whatever. So yeah, and so I guess that's kind of how things work. We can't guarantee rewards. It is all dependent on the quest fund and the ecosystem. So that's just something that I guess you'll need to keep in mind when you're considering which quests you want to do, and if you decide it's worth it or not for you. But we are actively looking at ways that we can increase the flow to that, and I do think with some of the things we have coming up in the future, the Jewel side of the quest fund will be a little bit more healthy. But I do think just in general, you can always expect the power token side to be much healthier than the Jewel side. So does that answer, I think, what was not yet
Yes.
said? Okay, cool.
Much appreciated. Sounds like we gotta do a few summons to get that 1 million crystal mark. All right. So let's go. Beetle Dude, did you have any updates you wanted to share?
Sure. Yeah, sorry. In the middle of my usual shit posting. So but yeah, let's see.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, Bolon, come on, man. I'm trying to work here. Yeah, so I mean, on the front end build side, I think Fox went over a lot of what's happening as far as the schedule for Clayton in the 2.0 launch. On the front end side, we're kind of taking the opportunity to work through just stuff that had been in the backlog. That's going to be a great boon, I think, to both the K-Chain and for Clayton, alongside just doing a ton of alpha bug fixing while we're testing, and just trying to make sure that this launch is going to be great for our current players and then also for our new players coming in. And things are looking really good. Typical's been hard at work, working on the Kaikus wallet and trying to get that in place so we can launch with that. I think it's looking pretty good as of right now, but we'll just need quite a bit of testing on that. And then working through some awesome sound updates that Sam has been putting together with our engineer, and trying to kind of build out the game feel of the app all around, which I think adding these sounds is going to do. I think it's going to make it feel a lot more gamified. And then Second Best Dad is doing what he always does, which is creating a bunch of cool new NPCs that we're kind of building out the world. and the environment, and trying to get things to be a little bit more consistent across the board. So just great stuff. Great stuff all around. Excited to be kind of, I don't know, I'm hoping this launch is going to be exciting for everybody and not just new players. I think there's a lot of great new stuff going in that people are going to be excited about. So that's it. That was a lot of talking, but yeah, I'm excited.
Don't worry, we'll make you talk more later. That was a much nicer follow-up to Second Best Dad is doing what he always does than I expected. I was really waiting to see where that one was going.
He's doing his other stuff too, but you know,
All right. Magnus, did you have any updates you wanted to share?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the gas optimization work we've been doing. So we've been heads down this week working on gas optimizations to get under the kind of threshold needed for the computation limits on Clayton due to their 1 second block time. I'm very pleased with the results. Hubert's been chipping in as well. Picked up some solidity over the weekend, which is really cool to see. But yeah, these optimizations, I don't want to share exact numbers yet because we still need to test kind of all the scenarios. But in a simulated environment, it's looking really good. I expect to see not only to have these quests work on Clayton, but also pay some dividends on DFK chain, and in terms of lowering the gas fees. Yeah, don't want to share exact numbers yet, but I'm pretty pleased with it, and hopefully. Once we get to do some live testing on this, it results in a better player experience. But very stoked about how that's going in terms of optimizations. And then we've also made some headwinds on getting some both price feeds and oracles, VRF oracles integrated with DFK chain. Nothing too big to share on that quite yet, but that's moving in a really good direction. In terms of building out DFK chain, so more to come on that.
Fantastic. All right, so there are two other updates that I know we have before we get into questions. So the first one is about burning some jewel.
Is that my cue? All right. Yeah, we have Jewel to burn. A lot of Jewel to burn. So as you guys know, a couple months ago we had our vote for Serendale 2.0. The sort of like the way that we're planning to handle like the lot jewels and all that with the splitting, and part of that was basically changing the 500 million jewel cap to 125 million. So that was a big change, and at the start of Crystal Veil, as you know, Joule is the gas Ethereum equivalent like coin there on that network. So it's not just a regular ERC20 coin. What that means is at the start of that chain, we actually had to mint all 500 million Joule that would ever exist at the start, and we put that inside of a multi-sig that would have all of the security and things around it. And what we've been doing is essentially like slowly refilling the bridge for Synapse as it starts to get low, as players are able to bridge their jewels from Harmony onto our chain. So it basically sends over ERC20s from Harmony, and they get actual Joule gas on our chain. Since we've now switched that to have 125 million cap, there's a lot of extra jewels in that multi-sig that need to be burned. 375 million jewels exactly. So we have been sort of like planning what's the best way to do this, where should it go, how should we do it, when should we do it, how should we communicate that, and all that type of stuff. And we have a consensus now, which I think we're actually planning to update our docs and release an update announcement to those docs, just kind of explaining about the 375 and how it's being burned. But just so that you guys hear it first, the plan is to basically have that 375 million jewels get burned to the official address that is used for burns on all of our networks. So it's the OX 00000 times 14, and then the DEAD at the end. So it'll be in the same place as the other jewels that are burned. This means that if you are tracking all of the stuff that is burned, you like will see that huge amount in there that's added from that. So if you only want to see jewels that have been burned out of the 125 million, then you might want to just subtract out the 375 because that's kind of a extra thing that we're doing to change the cap, basically. So hopefully I explained that without adding even more confusion. But Hubert and Dreamer and anyone else who has things they want to add to that, feel free to hop in. Other than that, our plan is just have those 375 million jewels get burned.
I guess the only other thing I'll mention that we're doing during this time is, let's see, we're also going to be burning the amount of jewel that has been burned on Serendale in Harmony as well. So you'll see two things happening, I think, when that happens. So.
Perfect. Yep. And as Fox mentioned, we are going to get that into the docs as well. So that and the Jade tokenomics structure, both of those will get added to the docs, and then we'll give everybody their favorite at everyone ping to let to let them know when that's done. So stay tuned. But we wanted to go ahead and give you a heads up. And then I wanted to go to Hubert, who I believe has a few updates for us.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so it has been a bit of a crazy set of days here. As people mentioned, I was jumping in on the Solidity stuff. And there are quite a few different things that kind of came out of that, not just with optimizations, but some changes that we're making as well that I'm pleased to be able to announce today. So just as far as a few different changes that are happening with the quest that you should be aware of once we start releasing things. The first is that mining and gardening quests are going to no longer allow you to cancel early and get early rewards, and instead you're going to be able to set the exact amount of stamina you want to spend when you're doing the start quest. So it'll still have like a default to your max stamina if you want, but then you can change it if you want to. And then at that point, you are locked in for that period of time with those heroes. And if you cancel, you'll just not get any rewards and lose the stamina for that quest. So basically, it'll work the same as how fishing and foraging work currently. So that is kind of a big change. It'll probably require some people to make some adjustments with the way they're doing things, but I think overall it'll allow people that that try to do like specific amount of stamina runs will be able to do that more easily. And it also allowed us to simplify the code quite a bit in the process of doing that, which I think was very important. And then the next thing is actually kind of came about from a question that was asked yesterday, or not yesterday. Time is such a weird construct for me right now. Last AMA, there was a question about the value of higher level heroes, and I stand by my answer back then, but it did get me thinking about other ways that we could improve things. And I did come up with something, and we approved it as a board, so I can announce that as well. So one thing that is going to be changing along with all these updates that's going to be coming is we are adjusting the way time per stamina works so that there will be a reduction in time that it requires to like get an extra point of stamina per level. So the way that's going to work is there's going to be, for every level, you get 2 seconds off of the total time it takes to get 1 stamina. So it's not a very big change at first, but as you level up more and more, that'll be more impactful. And then we're going to have a power up that is going to allow you to take that 2 seconds and make it 5 seconds instead. So get a 150% increase in efficiency there. So that I think will be pretty significant to to helping evaluate the value of higher level heroes, and also addresses a problem that I think a lot of people have noticed, which is having more stamina doesn't necessarily help you because it all recovers at the same rate. So Now that's not going to be the case anymore. So there will actually be, that's going to change the equation quite a bit for a lot of people. And I think it's going to be a very good improvement for heroes in general. So, and then other than that, I just want to shout out to Sam. We don't have what I'm talking about out yet, but there's a track that he's created recently that I cannot get out of my head, and it's been in my head ever since I heard it. And I'm excited to have that out once we do. So you guys can look forward to that. Look forward to that once we get it out. It'll still be a bit though. So anyway, yeah, I think that covers the things I wanted to talk about today.
I'll just add a couple thoughts there if that's okay. I'm really excited about this change because it just, as you get higher like levels with your hero, it feels like they should be able to like do more in the same amount of time, and I think this really is in the spirit of that. So really excited about this because it's just sort of like an extra incentive to make sure you get your heroes leveled up and spend the time to actually invest in them and improve their efficiency there as well. So super stoked. Thank you.
And I'll just add as well, because I think there was a question on that recently. This has been something on our minds for a while. But if we had like unlimited resources, I think that we would try to do it like everything today and now. But oftentimes we review, what should we do, and this cleared that check. What can we do? And it seemed like there was a multi-tiered path to have something more short-term and long-term. And then in what order do we prioritize these? And that's where it gets really tricky, because we have limited but very talented artists and devs and specialists on the team, and we have to come together and focus on priority. So excited and proud of the team's willingness to identify things such as this to prioritize, and also just grateful that we have good minds to come up with good solutions. So hopefully people are excited about the change.
Awesome. All right. That should do it for updates, unless I'm forgetting anything. So speak now or we're going into questions. All right, we're going into questions. So for the first question, it is ROI for playing versus holding, which I can expound on a little bit. Basically, the difference between return on investment for owning heroes and actively playing versus just holding assets. I think Foxy wanted to kick that one off.
Oh yeah, so it's an interesting question. We historically haven't really commented on speculation for like what's the best way to play the game, what's the most profitable thing to do, etc. There's a lot of different things, and at the end of the day, that's always been our goal, is just to create a ecosystem that has a lot of different things to do, a lot of different ways to play, a lot of different ways to earn, and that really has always been our approach. I don't think that we're going to start now on speculating, and we won't in the future either. It's just basically we trying to build, improve the ecosystem, and increase the utility for all of the walks, and all of those things sort of like combine to create this economy that is stronger for it, which means there's a lot of opportunities there. So that's sort of all I'll say about it, is that our approach hasn't changed. We're always in adding value to like the game, the chain, the ecosystem, everything, all of the above. And there's a lot of approaches that we're taking on that front. Dreamer probably has some thoughts, and I think maybe others as well. So off to them.
Yeah, I think I want to add to the initial comment of our main focus is to make and build an ongoing game that is safe, that is more and more fun, that has deeper features, that looks out at what's happening in Web3 and what existed in Web2, and let's take the best of it and try to put our own spin on it to make it integrated in that true like ongoing metaverse fashion. That does have some financial and economic components of it. We're very focused to make sure that the financial aspect is as safe as can be, expressed through how we pick partners, the speed at which we launch some of these new contracts, our ongoing effort to stay synced with like audits and have the best people not only putting the code in production, but to have various committees and working groups to help make sure that we get to the right place and adjust where needed. So then when, as a participant, if somebody asked the question, hey, how do I get the biggest bang for my buck or my time and resources? If we were to look back and did a deep analysis, I imagine any given day, week, or month, the answer could have been different, either due to what was being developed or what was happening in the market, what was happening with partners or larger or smaller individuals in the gamer ecosystem. So this is not only something that we really shouldn't be spending our time speculating on as the development team of the ecosystem, but we really couldn't in a confident way. So we won't even try. However, we are dedicated to make sure that the ecosystem and the economy is a healthy one. How do we do that? We look at ways to say, is there any piece of the ecosystem of hero NFTs, and pets are in mind as well, the various tokens. Is there a balancing mechanism that we need? Oh, we have a new feature coming up. What features or what tokens have less utility that we could utilize to make sense from a lore perspective? And through the building of the game, we are adjusting and balancing to the market, to the participants, without being disruptive and going back and refactoring things every day that we wake up and the world is different. So if I'm somebody that has a lot of time and likes the idea and the long-term path of a tokenized RPG game with assets that are playable, but they also hold value in a hopefully growing liquid market, I would hope that person would like to play and contribute and maybe experience drop rates that are exciting, that have higher value than expected relative to like a common drop rate. I would hope that people join AMAs and give good feedback that then contribute to the building of the long-term project. So buy and hold versus actively play, to me, it comes down to what kind of participant are you? How much time do you have? How invested are you? How much do you want to participate in the growing part as like founding players? And or if a lot of those aspects aren't there and you're long-term bullish of the project still, buy and hold might fit your personal situation. So our perspective, we want to cater to all interests and make sure we have a place for everybody's time, assets, energy, and input, rather than speculate on which one everybody should go all in on, and that would be the best for them, because the latter part of that is impossible. The former is something we can and try our very best to solve for.
Good deal. Did anybody else want to chime in on that, or we good? Good to go. All right.
I'll just say, just to reiterate, all of the above, like we're very focused to improve all aspects as we go. So, yep, we do very regularly sit down and look at how are things going? Is there anything that we need to adjust? Is anything out of balance, etc. But also, really, it's a very living marketplace. It's a real world economy with a lot of players, a lot of input and output, supply and demand. All that really plays into it. So, yep. Just reiterating that we're here to support and to build all of it. And yep, personally, I do all of the above. That's just my not financial advice, but that's what I do.
Awesome. Very much appreciate the insight there. Let's see. Question about duels. We've heard that duels will reward players who level up their heroes. Could you expound on that? Fox, did you want to add anything there? Basically, how level influences duels.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this one last week as well. I feel like maybe it was the week before. But we are on season 1 right now of duels. We did a lot of changes in between season 0 and season 1 to sort of help to rebalance matchmaking and things. We're also monitoring very closely how things are playing out with season 1, and we already have a list of things that will be improving and changing for season 2. A lot of those actually do relate to matchmaking and hero levels and how how hero like levels can play into rankings and things. So you will see some changes there for season 2. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's basically like we do want it to be such that higher level heroes are able to get higher ranks than others, all else equal, and still have a like really rewarding way to play duels and get matched with others that are your same levels and things there as well. So it's still enjoyable all the way along and can still be able to have a pretty good like win-loss rate at all of those levels. So yeah, hopefully that answers it in a way that explains things.
Yes, sir. I believe it does. And I know we've mentioned it before, but always worth mentioning. Every season of Duels is intended to be better than the previous season, so it's a ever evolving system. All right. Well, I think we just kind of have a slew of questions for Hubert now. So, Hubert, I hope you're ready to talk.
All right.
So let's start with this one. With Dark Summoning, we've seen an increase in the number of Dread Knights, and also higher rarity Dread Knights. Was this expected? Any thoughts on the impact to the hero market on that front?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So yeah, I think the first part of that is, it's true, it has led to quite a bit more Dread Knights coming into the market, especially in this early time, I think, when people were summoning for the Gen Zero raffle. It looked like the number of Dread Knights went up by about 150 or so from before and after, and then in that there were also like 131 or so that were burned. As far as if that was expected or like commenting on the market, obviously whenever we bring a new feature out, it does cause a kind of shuffling of values between things as things become more or less scarce. And we are monitoring dark summoning and want to make sure that it is healthy for the ecosystem. So, if we do find that there's anything that needs to be changed, I would say that, dark summoning is something that could be updated in the future if we find that maybe it's a little too rewarding in some ways. It could change. So, nothing to say definitive at this point in time, but we are watching it and are aware of that. I guess I will also note that while the amount of Dark Knights did go up, the amount of sages and dragoons went down. So that actually led to, I think, an increased scarcity on that front. So there is always going to be this kind of balancing and rebalancing that occurs every time we come out with some major new feature like this, and our efforts on our part is to make sure that it is not something that's going to cause the game to break or be too adverse to the ecosystem. We're just trying to add as many ways to add value to the whole game ecosystem as we can, and are going to continue to take your feedback and monitor the situation to see if there's anything that needs to change over time.
Awesome. You might as well stay unmuted. I got another one for you. Pet XP bonuses. Will the XP boost that pets give heroes work for training quests?
So yes and no. There is just the base bonus that you get for having a pet equipped, that will apply. If there's a bonus that is like specific to getting more experience for a profession quest, then that would not apply.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Let's see. Next one. Profession quest level 10 and loot. Is the current plan for the next level of profession quests to have the same possible quest rewards but different drop rates, or would there be new items being introduced?
Yeah, another good question. So I'll just say that it's going to be the same items that can drop, but with increased drop rates, or like increased yield rates for like gardening and mining. And just to kind of like expound on that a little bit, the plan right now is, or I think for us to be adding a whole bunch of new tokens before we have some other systems in place, I think it would just further kind of lead to, kind of the state that we have right now, where it's a lot of unknowns and speculation. And I'm more focused on trying to get the next features out that are going to like really take all those other ingredients into account. With PvE and PvP, potions should become much more important at that point. As we get like the crafting system implemented and everything else, that's when we'll really start to see a larger increase in different tokens that you can get from quests.
Awesome. I have one last question for you. C-Jewel / S-Jewel power-ups. Is there any insight on how many power-ups are currently planned / conceived of, and the anticipated range for opting into them?
Okay, so as far as like how many there will be, I can't answer that, because I think I can say our philosophy is now going to be to look at, for any given feature, is a power up appropriate for this, and if yes, then it'll be added. If not, then it won't. So I think the list of power ups is going to be something that can continually grow as we go. As far as like the initial layout of them, it's going to kind of depend on when we release that. If it comes out before the level 10 professions or at the same time, it'll kind of change things. But there are at least 6 power-ups that I can think of right now that are like in the short term that we have prepared or are preparing for. And then as far as like the C-Jewel or S-Jewel allocation value for those, I previously said before, it's going to kind of be dependent on the power up. For things that are kind of minor or like on a per hero or per like group of hero basis, I'm thinking those will be somewhere along the lines of like between 10 and 30 C-Jewel or S-Jewel. And then things that are more like broad things, maybe a bit more like 50 or even higher, just depending on what the power up is for. But generally kind of sticking to the philosophy of thinking about what does this mean in terms of how much jewel would need to be locked for how much time. And so that's kind of the basis around how we're deciding on these, and considering all those factors. So the system's not out yet, so I can't give any exact numbers, but hopefully that at least kind of gives you some sense of what to expect.
Perfect.
Just chime in too, if that's okay. I'm always thinking about that. Like when we hop in the meetings, I suggest the new like power up for this or that and the other. And I would say there's a lot we can do internally in the game. We're also brainstorming things we can do with third-party builders, and creating a way to allow the system be kind of an incubator of sorts for those that are offering services that are outside of the game or another game itself. There could be potential to have like power-ups in that direction. So if anybody's wanting an answer at one point in the future, hey, how many power-ups should we expect long term? They will probably be similar to features in that they would be ever increasing, and people can choose how to allocate their C-Jewel and S-Jewel according to the power-ups with the different benefits or any cost or anything related to them. So just wanted to add to those comments, since I'm adding to the quote unquote problem of how many power-ups being able to be answered, because I think that it's a really awesome idea, a ton of utility, not only for us and within the game and adding gameplay and premium features, but the possibilities are pretty endless across the whole ecosystem.
Most definitely. I know there's already a lot of fun stuff planned, and there will always be more to come. So there was one last question which I can actually answer, so I'm going to do that real quick, and then we will wrap up for the day, and it's right on time too, which never happens. So that last question was in regards to getting Wisdom involved for some AMAs. The answer to that is yes, we are going to be getting Wisdom involved for some AMAs. However, prior to getting Wisdom involved in some AMAs, I have the pleasure to now reveal to you that next week, literally a week from today, on November 30th, Workhorse from Wisdom will be joining Risen and I for a Chaos Cast. So assuming that after that he's still willing to work with us, we will then be planning some AMAs with Wisdom as well. They're such a great partner, which we've expounded on many times, so I won't go into that, but they're super fun to interact with in our PvP discussion channel as well. So I know people are excited for the opportunity to interact with and engage with them some more and get to ask them some questions. So that will be coming, but definitely tune in next week on Wednesday at, I believe, 3:30 Eastern. But there will be announcements and tweets and all that stuff, so stay tuned to confirm that time because I might be wrong, but I think it's 3:30 Eastern. So really looking forward to that. That'll be right on the back of Decentral. Dreamer mentioned Decentral earlier, but really excited to be in Miami, get to meet a bunch of y'all, get to network and spread the good word of DFK. So that was all of my closing thoughts, except for my obligatory at this point reminder that we have not released our Jade contract. If you see Jade tokens for sale, they are not ours. Please be aware of what you are buying. You will know when we launch our contract. With that, any final thoughts? I know Dreamer said he had to step away to talk to that repairman again. So he is currently AFK. Any final thoughts from Magnus, Hubert, or Beetle before we go to Fox to close us down?
Just super excited. We have a lot of awesome irons in the fire, and when you guys get to see them all, I'm excited to see your reaction. So
Yeah, I guess I'll just second that. I think this delay has kind of been a blessing in disguise to some extent. It has allowed us to given us more time to have a more fully featured release, and also focus on some things that we wanted to do, but it's just been a matter of if we change something about how quests work, then we have to update all these contracts and all these things. And so we don't like to do that very often. So it's given us an opportunity to do a lot. And I think the end result is going to be good for everybody. So I'm really excited as well.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about the opportunity to do some overhaul this week and everything else that has progressed with various partners. And just really glad to have that opportunity to make some of those improvements.
Excuse me. Very nice. All right. Fox, you want to shut us down?
it sounds so bad when you say it like that. Shut it down. No, it's been a really good week, and also a really good month, really good year. I mean, it's just like really good to be in this space and be building. I just sort of want to second what Beetle said. I have the pleasure that I get to see the alpha site fairly often, and it's really cool to see some of the things that are there, some of the features. It's also really cool and fun, like Magnus said, to have the opportunity to like refactor a lot of our things. It just basically like leads to more efficient, more clean code that then translates to savings across the board for all of our players too, for gas and things like that. So really stoked about all those improvements that we can make, and it really sets us up to create some of the awesome and cool new features that we have planned as well, that we're about to the point where it'll be our like main focus to just really start to hit on all those important new exciting features. So it's an exciting time to be in the kingdom. We're about to launch this new realm with a new coin and with new hero genes and with new player areas of our like world that will be in our game, and just really exciting to be very, very close to that. Here in America, tomorrow's a holiday. It's when we celebrate Thanksgiving, for those that don't know. So I guess I've just been kind of thinking a little bit more about things I'm thankful for, and high on that list is this amazing team that I get to work with and the amazing community that are all of you guys here in this room. So I just want to take a minute and say thank you to everyone for all of the efforts and love and care that has been put into all of the code and the work and the memes and the sites and the YouTubes and just all that type of stuff. You know, there's been so much effort and time that has been poured into this from all the fronts, and it's really cool to see us all just kind of collaborating on this idea to have it really just grow and become a reality that is just amazing. And so stoked about that, and just like very, very grateful and thankful for all of you guys here. And I guess with that, I'll just end with saying, bullish. Thank you for coming, and I love all you guys.
Bullish.
Me too, bullish.
Bullish.
Peace.
Also, I did forget to plug C Jewel raffle in 25 minutes on YouTube. We'll share a link. Bye.